Trigonometry, chapter 2, day 1. Pretty simple stuff. We're just talking about angles in the Cartesian plane, identifying quadrants. So this is, go ahead and copy this down. Obviously, got to pause the video periodically and get caught up. That's fine. It's not particularly long. This is quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2. Here is quadrant 3. And here is quadrant 4. We use Roman numerals for some reason, but that's how we do it. And a positive angle goes, so remember, this is standard position is the positive x-axis is the start. Positive angle goes this way. Okay, that's positive. And a negative angle goes this way. Okay. So that's the basics of that. And if you recall, we got two different ways of relaying information about an angle. An angle could be given as an angle between 0 and 160, or it could be done in radians. Now, radians is a measure of length in terms of the radius. How many radiuses, which we call radians, how many radians does it take to go around the circle? So going around the whole circle is 2 pi radians, which is 6.28 in the decimal. That's equivalent to 360. So those are things you learned in chapter 1, but it kind of pops back up here. Now, question 1a, which quadrant is 195 degrees in? Okay, so this is standard position. So 195 degrees positive goes this way right here to 180 and a little further 15 degrees into quadrant 3. Negative 270 degrees. Now a negative angle goes this direction. So negative 270 is going to end up being the positive y-axis right there. It's actually not in a quadrant. It's not in quadrant 1 nor in quadrant 2. It's the positive x-axis. And the last one is the last one is 500 degrees. So 500 degrees, this is positive. So it takes a full revolution going around once. That's 360. And then it goes 140 degrees more. Now this is 90 more. So it ends up in quadrant 2. And that's how you would draw it with the circles representing the fact that it went around once. All right, item D, D, E, and F right here. Okay, so on D, E, and F, negative 800 degrees. All right, negative 800 is the negative direction is going to go around once. That's 360. Twice, that's 720, and what's left over is 80 degrees. So it stays in quadrant 4. Now, I did an alternative method here, but I kind of like my drawing a little bit better. Okay. Item E, 722 degrees, that's positive. So going around once is 360. Twice is 720, and then it's just 2 degrees into quadrant 1. Then in item F, negative 932 degrees. All right, so negative 932 is going to go the negative direction once and twice. That's going to be 720, and I'm going to get my calculator out real quick and go 932.8 minus 720. What's left is about 212. Okay, so negative 212 is negative 180 and a little bit more. So it's quadrant 2. Again, I did it a different way here using positive angles. But if you use my drawing, that might be a little bit easier. There's a couple of ways to do it. Okay, coterminal. Coterminal, co means the same. Coterminal means angles that end in the same spot. Obviously, 0 degrees, 360, and 720 are all ending in the same spot, which is the positive y-axis. You get the idea on that. Okay, so 2a is 50 degrees. Okay, so 50 degrees, if I drew it out, is right about here. 50 degrees, no problem. Other angles that end up in the same spot, all you have to do is add 360 to it a couple times, and you would get those two. Most people will just add 360 every single time. So two good answers are just these two right here. There's other ways to do it. You can subtract 360 and go the negative route and get the same angle again. You could do that. Most people won't do that. Okay, 207 degrees. Again, if you add 360 twice, you'll get these two answers right here. That's going to be the easiest way to do it. I gave you 3. You could also subtract 360s a series of times and get those answers as well. And then C is negative 92. So negative 92 is right here. Okay, negative 90 plus a little bit more. Most people, again, will simply add 360 twice to that, and you'll end up with two answers. And you could also subtract 360 and get the negative answers. It doesn't make any difference. Okay, let me slide up. Now we're talking in radians for D, for D, E, and F. Okay, so when you see the symbol pi, you know you're in radians. If you see a decimal like this, you don't really know if it's radians or degrees unless they tell you. And of course, this is, I'm telling you it's radians. Okay, so pi over 4. Quickest way is to add 2 pi. Okay, add 2 pi and, you know, get the common denominator and get those two answers. Now I did 3 of them. You could also subtract 2 pi and get those, but most people will do the ones that I boxed. Of course, when you add 2 pi to this, you got pi over 4 plus 2 pi. 2 pi in terms of 4 is 8 pi over 4. That's where you get 9 pi over 4 for the first one. You got to get the common denominator. Okay. This one, the radians one. Now in radians, 360 degrees or 2 pi is 6.28, which is simply 2 times 3.14. I think I carried it out more decimals here, but if you add 6.28 to 4.7 twice, you'll get the two easiest answers. Okay. Same thing here. This is, by the way, there's a negative here. It's negative 3 pi over 7. Probably the easiest way is simply to add 2 pi. Now again, 2 pi on this is going to be 14 pi over 7. You got to get the common denominator. And that's where you get 11 pi over 7. Then you add 14 pi over 7 again and get 25 pi over 7. No problem. All right. Now, this determine the angle of the smallest possible positive measure. Smallest possible positive measure. So it's going to be easy for this one. This one will be a little bit harder. Okay, these two will be a little bit harder. All right, and I'll have just a little teeny calculator out for myself here. Okay, so on 944 degrees, what's going to happen is, if I did a drawing of it, I would go around twice and have 720 covered. And then I'm simply going to go, I got a little calculator here. I'm going to go 944 minus 720. And I end up with 224 degrees left, which is, it ends up in the third quadrant, by the way, somewhere over here. Okay. So this one is a little bit tricky here. Okay. So negative 1208. So I'm going to figure out how many turns there are in this thing. So I'm going to go, I think there's going to be, let's see here, 4 times 360. I got a little guide there. 4 times 360 is 1440. Okay, so that's 1440, and that's past this angle. So if I simply go 1440 minus 1208, I'm going to end up with 232. The same thing on this one. You may have to put the calculator a little bit. You want to get just past it. So 7 360s gets me past negative 235, 2315, I should say. and that ends up with 205 left over right there. Okay, you can draw those out as well. Not a super hard beginning of the chapter. FYI, chapter 1 and 2 are pretty easy. I mean, nothing super hard here, but chapter 3 gets a little more memorization, a little more skill, a little more new things. This is not particularly earth-shattering or anything, all right? That's Trig, day 1, chapter 2.